Hey, today I'm talking about the first three films featuring Mothra. And the names of those three films are Mothra, Mothra vs. Godzilla, and Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. Next up is Mothra. This is a 1961 movie, and hot damn do I love this movie. Like, looking at it just kind of like very basically, it's a standard run-of-the-mill kaiju movie. Because basically, like, corporation does a thing, suddenly there's a monster, the monster destroys a bunch of stuff, the military gets sent after them, then eventually the conflict is resolved and everyone goes about their lives happy. But like, looking at this movie deeper, oh my god, the metaphors are incredible. Like, this corporation comes to this untouched island with a native population, steals their most valuable resource, and then everyone else deals with the consequences of their actions, of this corporate greed, and they have no accountability. They do not accept responsibility for their own actions. That's incredible. That's so well done. You can also see it as like corporations taking actions that then causes environmental damage. This is about climate change, because like Mothra is just responding to the actions that they took, and Mothra is causing all of this damage. She isn't intending there to be this damage, her flapping her wings destroying whole cities. It's just her direct response to this corporation being greedy sons of bitches. But then also, it's like the military industrial complex supports the actions of this business because they are trying to fight Mothra with gunfire and whatnot, and like, it's great. It's great. There's so many just wonderful metaphors in this thing. There's also just like, I love the spirituality of this. I love the twin fairies so much, and just like the mystical aspect of it all. They don't like fully explore it, but like it's wetting my whistle and I love it. I mean, Mothra's design too is also just brilliant. She's so beautiful. Like, those bright blue eyes, those shining eyes are just gorgeous, and her wings are incredible. And like, she's not evil. She's literally just trying to take back what was stolen from her. It's so great. I love this movie a lot. And the pacing's really great too. The action's done so well. The movie just kind of flies by. It's just like go into the next thing to the next thing, and it works, and it has such great momentum. Yeah, no, I really loved this movie. It's incredibly well done. It's a great story. Top to bottom, they just really freaking crushed it. So yes, thoroughly enjoyed this movie. Wholeheartedly recommend. You don't need to be a fan of monster movies, kaiju films. You can just go into this one and have a great time. I mean, it definitely is like 1960s production value, so like it's definitely clear like, oh, that's a miniature, but like, you know, understand that that's what this is, and you can definitely leave this experience loving this movie as much as I did. So yes, thoroughly enjoyed it, definitely recommend. Next up is Mothra vs. Godzilla. This is a 1964 film that is a sequel to the previous one. It's not immediately clear that it is, because like it starts off with Mothra egg, and it's like, oh, where did this come from? But they explain it. Climate change. So the basic premise of this one is due to climate change, which they don't outright say, because that I don't think was really a term commonly used yet in the 60s. Mothra's egg has washed away from her island, and she wants it back, but another greedy corporation has taken control of her egg and refuses to give it back. And then also, due to corporate greed, doing some land development stuff, they unearth, quite literally, Godzilla, and Godzilla's not happy about that, and also senses the power of the egg and is like, yo, I'm gonna mess up this egg. And, you know, conflict ensues from there. So yeah, no, again, this movie has a lot of great, just like, pro-environment, anti-corporation metaphors that are just top notch. It's done so well. The production value is also like a noticeable step up. As much as I love the last one, it's clear that there's a bit more budget here, even though I do believe Mothra was one of the most expensive, if not the most expensive monster movie to date. You can just tell there's a bit more here. I also feel like they expanded upon like the mythos of Mothra in a really interesting way, like how Mothra doesn't die, she's just reincarnated over and over again. That's really great. Even like the way that Mothra and Godzilla fight is really interesting. interesting because it's clear that like Godzilla has the power. Godzilla could really just mess up Mothra at any moment, but she kind of has the agility, she has like the claws, kind of come in, attack real quick and then fly off. That's really great. Then when it switches to like the egg hatches and larvae come out, and when they attack, the way they did that was really neat. I will say that like the fight scenes did seem a bit dragged out when the larvae were like Spider-Man webbing up Godzilla. That just kind of went on for forever. I mean, it was interesting, but like you could have really condensed that. I think my only complaints with this one is that I think the pacing just wasn't as good and things were a little stretched out at times. Otherwise though, it's still another really solid film. Again, great metaphors, beautifully done story. I love the human characters too. It definitely works really well. It just doesn't quite hit the same levels as the original one, even though it does have a better production value, just because it did feel a bit stretched out at times. So even with that though, I would still highly recommend it. It's another great film and definitely worthy of the Mothra name. So yes, really good film, well worth a watch. And lastly, it's Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. This film is notable in the Toho series because it is the beginning of a switch to a more kid-friendly, kid-focused monster movie, and you can notice it. You really can notice it. And that's unfortunate because there's a lot of stuff I still liked about this movie. I think the story was interesting, what they were going for, because King Ghidorah comes down and is gonna destroy the Earth, and it's up to Mothra to convince Godzilla and Rodan to stop bickering and save the world. I think that's a great premise, to take these enemies and make them team up to go for a bigger bad. That's a fun concept. Turning Godzilla into more of a hero or an anti-hero, that's not a bad idea. It's sort of a metaphor you could take, is how to use nuclear power in a good way. But like, I don't feel like they really did metaphors with this one. I don't feel like there's really a lot of deepness to this one, which is really unfortunate. The only arc that I really saw happening was between Godzilla and Rodan. We just want to fight. And then their arc is, I guess we'll help the world. Otherwise, there really isn't any like character growth or anything like that. I did really like that the twin fairies had more screen time and it felt like they did more stuff, and I feel like they got a bit more depth. I loved every single time they popped up. I really loved those two characters and the two actresses that played them. They really did a great job. I also have to shout out the princess character from Venus. The actress, A, incredibly beautiful, big crush on her. But then B, she's also did such a great job of giving a really nuanced performance with like this strange, like crazy person thing. And her performance was just so nuanced. But also like, it just makes us ask so many questions about like, is she being crazy or is this real? Her prophecies are coming true. So like, there has to be some truth to this, but like, how could she be from Venus, but she's also this other like real life princess thing? Like, what's going on here? And so it asks a lot of really interesting questions that I want more answers to, and I have no idea if we get more answers in other future films. If you know, please tell me. I definitely want to like explore this character more because she's really fascinating. The actress doesn't appear in any more films, I know that. What really brought the movie down was the cartoonishness of it. In particular, like the whole scene where like Mothra's trying to convince the other two kaiju to help humanity. There's a part where Godzilla laughs at Rodan and then Rodan laughs at Godzilla, and I'm like, what is this? This is so silly. And just like the fighting in general didn't work for me. It just felt so silly. Like Godzilla threw so many rocks at so many monsters. Like, what are you doing? And again, I get that it's like trying to focus their attention on children's entertainment, but like, man, the other two were so good. And there is a lot of really good stuff here too. It's just like, just a bit too silly. I did still enjoy this movie a lot. I put it in my quite like section, so it's basically a 4 out of 5 for me. Would I still recommend it? You gotta go into this one with the right mindset of like understanding that it is more kid focused. I do think you can still definitely enjoy this movie. It's just like, be prepared for more cartoonish shenanigans and you can still have a good time. So yes, it's not as good as the other two, but I would still recommend it. Alrighty, now for today's rankings. First up, we got Mothra sitting at number 29 in the really liked section. My top of the really liked is filled with some fantastic films this year. And then after that, not too terribly far behind, is Mothra vs. Godzilla sitting at number 44, again in the really liked section. And then bringing up the rear, not too terribly far behind, is Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, sitting at number 72 in the quite like section. And this is a total of 147 old movies so far this year.